Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So today I decided to do something a bit more generic and actually kind of look at healing itself. I was thinking of doing some Resto Druid videos and things like that, but I really kind of thought about what makes healers good and what makes... I saw basically a question: what makes you bring this specific healer? Not talking by class, I'm talking about by basically game style. What makes you bring him into mythic rating, heroic rating, normal rating instead of someone else? And we're not talking here about just class distinctions, we're talking here about the game style and what makes basically a good healer. I think there are multiple different aspects that can make you a good healer, regardless of your class. At the end of the day, skill is always going to be above class. It just basically kind of depends. Do you want to work really hard for a class that's underperforming and get the same HPS numbers as, say, a class that doesn't really require that much effort, and they're going to be the same healer as you, even though they're probably much less skillful? First of all, healing is... the reason I'm playing a healer is because it is not like a science like playing a DPS, where you have a fixed rotation, where you know what kind of DPS rotation you have to do for a single target, multi-target, 2 targets at a time, 2 targets separated, 2 targets for prolonged periods of time, with there's also a single target involved 50% of the time. You kind of get an idea for what talents you need to use, what's the rotation, what's the spell up times. For healing, it's a lot different. It is... first of all, a lot of people judge healers by their meters and HPS, which is, again, not 100% foolproof way of judging a healer, because healing is more of an art. Because I've seen a lot of people saying this, and I truly believe that in a way, because a healer who is, let's say a Restoration Druid is healing someone. There's a person who drops to like 10% HP, but the whole raid is low. A Resto Druid is going to use a wild growth in this situation. He's going to get better numbers than a Resto Druid who's actually going to cast a single target heal on that person with 10% HP and save his or her life. The healer is going to have less HPS than a healer who used an AoE spell to pad. Which healer is better? Obviously, it's the healer who saved the person, but this is not going to be evident in your meters. So, in order for you to become a good healer, it's going to depend on multiple situations. I'm going to be talking about progression. The first time you're doing a boss, the first time you're experiencing new mechanics, you're seeing which talents to use and things like that. And like I said, most important thing is that during progression, you don't pad. You don't cast Wild Growth when someone's about to die. You save that person because you're gonna save a battle res. You're allowing someone else to die, someone else to mess up. You're prolonging the fight. By prolonging the fight, you're allowing DPS to kill the boss. So saving people in progression fight is the most important thing. You don't really look at the healing meters until like someone's doing really low healing, or they're like going out of mana 10%, like at 50% of the boss HP and things like that. And they're just going like they might not seem like they know what they're doing for this fight, which is acceptable for the first couple of attempts because you're just on a new boss, because you're trying out new things. But the thing, during progression, don't pad, save people. Even though even if you might run out of mana a bit quicker, by saving those people, you're allowing other healers to kind of back up AoE healing. Like I said, this is very generic kind of scenario. It all depends on how many healers you have, how skilled they are, what content you're doing, and things like that. But like I said, saving lives in progression is way more important than padding meters and looking good at the end of the fight. Another thing that's really important for healers is also using cooldowns correctly and things like that. I mean, it's simple things, but like if a tank asks you for a cooldown, you make sure you have it. If there's a lot of damage during that specific part of the fight, you can suggest to the raid leader, or if you're a raid leader yourself, maybe I should be using healing cooldowns there. My healing cooldown is going to do more than yours because the whole raid is moving to this part. There's a lot of damage. I have Tranquility, I have Healing Tide. Those don't require, those spells don't have a healing movement inability. So let me use a cooldown there and things like that. Just suggest, like, just appropriately knowing where healing cooldown is going to be used really well, and trying to optimize the healing cooldown to not by optimizing a healing cooldown. Not only you're going to look better, which is not the end goal, but you're basically going to heal up everyone. So therefore, other healers don't have to spend that much mana. Which mana in 7.25, mana in Legion is a big thing, because no matter what gear you have, you're going to have the same mana regen. You're going to have 1.5 million mana. So anything that can save that in a progression fight is always going to be very useful. Another thing during the progression fights, what makes a really good healer is basically, okay, I'm seeing, let's say for example, I'm seeing that in botanist fight, phase 3 is the hardest fight. Phase 1 and things, there's nothing going on, other healers can cover that. I don't even need to heal, I can DPS. But phase 3, man, this is when we need a big burst healing for like 30 seconds. You can see the botanist, let's say for example, Resto Druids and botanists will be using things like Spring Blossoms and things like that. But you're saying, Spring Blossoms is not going to do that much in phase 3, I need some burst healing, I'm going to go 3 form. I'm going to go 3 form for that 30 seconds, and I'm going to save people's lives, because that's when we're dying. If you're actually going to think about this and say like, okay, I'm going to lose HPS, it doesn't matter, I'm going to allow my guild to progress past phase 3 and therefore kill the boss. These kind of decisions are going to really, like, you tell that to your officers, you tell that to your teammates, you tell them I'm going to pop this. They'll understand, most of the times, they'll understand that you might not be healing as much, but they'll know that you're healing a lot during that phase and you're carrying through the hardest phase. And they'll look at you and they say like, this guy knows what's going on, he's doing well, he can think for himself, he doesn't have to follow everyone else's talents, the cookie talent. Which is perfectly fine to use for the first boss, but once you know there's a specific phases, you can go around these different talents, you can change them around. Don't always just follow the crowd. Follow what's good for you. Follow what you feel is going to work better for you. And that's why I understand for the new druids and new healers who are telling me what talents should I use for that. I understand, like, use this is probably going to work 99% of the time. But for your guild, I don't know how many healers you might have. I don't know what kind of skill levels those healers have. I don't know what issues you have. So maybe you have an issue for 30 seconds where there's too much damage coming out and you need a healing cooldown, or you need something else on top of that. So thinking and choosing different talents for each fight is going to make you a much more versatile healer, and is going to make you a better person. The raid leader is going to invite you, they're not going to look at the meters, they're going to say this guy knows what he's doing because he's looking to progress the guild rather than just himself. Another thing is basically for a lot of healers, positioning is very huge, because some of the healers are not very mobile. Things like Shamans, Holy Paladins, they really need to kind of think ahead of what's going on. So knowing damage patterns when damage is coming in, so you know like in 30 seconds there's going to be a big damage. I'm gonna go get ready to prepare my spells, I'm gonna get some cooldowns ready, and things like that. Maybe if you have unused trinket, you can use it during that part, and you say I'm gonna need 2 cooldowns for this part. Then you'll notice that in another minute I'm gonna need like a 3 cooldown. I'm gonna need 1 cooldown. And by doing that, by knowing how many cooldowns and things like that, you can kind of position yourself movement wise as well. Expect movement and expect what kind of cooldowns you need. Like, let's say, like, for example, healing type for shamans, there's a movement fight, I can just pop it. Other healers can't pop healing cooldowns when they're moving. I'm going to do a lot more healing, and I'm not going to reduce my healing. So things like that. And positioning is very important. For Resto Druids, it's not that important because Resto Druids are the mobile healers. But for everyone else, positioning, especially at the very start of a new patch, new raid, is going to be a big deal. You'll actually notice that during the first, like, I don't know, 20 pulls or something, maybe healers, a lot of the immobile healers are going to be underperforming and healing for a lot less. As the fight progresses, you'll notice that those healers, Paladin, Shams, they're coming back in the meters, they're doing a lot more healing. And the meters is not the best judge, but you'll notice that they'll probably be doing more healing. That's just because they probably got better positioning. They're expecting the fight, they're expecting the damage and things like that. And they can precast their spells to avoid people dying and things like that. So you'll notice that immobile healers will start healing better the longer the more attempts you have on a boss. While druids kind of like peak from the very start, because they don't really have to worry about it, because they can just rejuvenate everyone, and that's like a lot of the healing. And I guess another part is that mana can be a big judge of how good of a healer you are. Now, I recommend that every healer should finish a fight with 0% mana, because then you know you have used everything. I really don't like seeing logs and things like logs and comparisons where a healer finishes, let's say, with 20% mana without using a mana pot, without using like a second innervate or any of the mana tools available, because you know you could have healed for so much more. Even just if you can precast a pre-hot and things like that, because you know mana is not going to be an issue, you're kind of already preventing people from making mistakes. This kind of works for more for farm. For progression, it's really hard to judge the mana, how much mana you're going to be using, so you have to give a lot of attempts at the boss. For progression fights, I absolutely do not expect people to finish with 0% mana, because you always kind of have to have something in reserve. You need to have that 10-20% mana just in case something happens. Just in case there's an ability that you're not sure of that's going to put everyone at 50% and might wipe the raid. In the first kill of a boss, I don't expect anyone to have 0% mana. I expect people to actually hold on to a little bit, to have a little reserve just for those oh my god moments. Because having that reserve is going to allow you to topple people. Once you get more familiar, you can always expect damage, expect how much mana you're going to use, and it's going to make you a better healer. And always use mana pots, no matter what. I mean, no matter what. Just you should always have in your mind that you don't only have 1.5 million mana. You also have that mana from mana pot. You should always use it. No matter what scenario, you should always use the right flasks, food, and mana potions. That's part of becoming a good healer, and always ensuring that you're going to provide your best for each fight. This is just my little generic list of what I think makes a good healer. Please let me know how you feel about this. Please let me know if you have an additional tips on how to become better at healing, and how you feel about my list. And again, guys, thank you for watching this little guide, and I'll see you next time.